taking a look at everything, basically upper body at this point. We're going to run through different ranges of motion testing as well as some muscle testing. We've already done the internal external rotation for you guys, but that's kind of where we would start to get an idea how the shoulder can move freely, not overly forced. And it's all right to hold this up just a little bit because most of us aren't going to be able to lay flat. Her external is fantastic. Internal is more than sufficient for anything that we're going to do. In most cases, the guys that can touch the ground here, let's see if I can make her shoulder do it without breaking it. So you'll see that shoulder roll forward as we really force that internal rotation. And the goal isn't just to touch the ground with the hand and make it look like we have excellent shoulder range of motion. The goal here is to just check the free space in the joint and make sure that it's reasonable, which hers is. So I don't necessarily care to touch the table here. I care that we keep that shoulder locked down in a nice neutral position, and then we check the range of motion within that position. If that shoulder rolls, that's a compensation, and that just gives us a false reading. So that's internal, external rotation. Let's just say her shoulder were staying put, and we had very limited internal, like 20 degrees or something, and I wanted more for some reason. We could always do an isometric, so I would block the back of the elbow, the front of the wrist, and then she would go ahead and push into me for 6 seconds. Okay, relax. And then we pull you out of that range of motion and then back into it. If you only had like a very, very small range, I might just do them all 6 reps in the same position. However, being that the shoulder has a pretty good range of motion, we could start on one end, do an activation there, reset out of that position, come to a slightly more externally position, activate here for another 6 seconds, we'd pull you back out, move the shoulder around, and then maybe slightly more external so that we're getting a rep kind of at each range of motion and activating the entire thing. And then by the end of the 6 reps, you should find that joint has a little more mobility within it. So that's internal, external rotation. We'll go ahead and check lats while we're here. We're going to take that arm, internally rotate. Don't force the internal rotation so far that the shoulder rolls forward. It should stay pretty flat on the table, and try and keep the pec out of it. So we're going to pull this arm outward while she pulls in toward her hip. Go ahead. Okay, and that's good and strong there. If you don't feel that in the lat, probably need to take the time to do activations here. The secondary lat, rather than pulling inward, she's going to pull down toward the table. I'm going to pull up on the wrist. Go ahead. Good. And throughout all these, do your best to keep the arm straight. The internal rotation just helps bias the lat. But again, if it pulls the shoulder up, internally rotate less. If you only feel bicep and forearm in this, rotate to a neutral grip and see if we can activate the lat in that range. There's a third lat activation, kind of like a lat pull down. So shoulders at 90, elbows at 90. I'm just going to block her here. Go ahead and pull down. Okay, good and strong there. So what I'm feeling for is basically constant tension, a good like secure connection to the muscle, as well as her, just being mindful of her own body and getting an idea what is a good strong contraction for her, as well as it not being sputtered or anything like that. So all those felt good. We'll move into pec. Pec, there's a lot of 5. There's 5 different positions we test. The first one, fully internally rotated, and we're going to pull kind of at a diagonal, so from this shoulder toward the opposing side hip. And it helps to brace the person on the opposing side shoulder so that they don't tip over. Go ahead and pull. Okay, that one's strong. Her arm just clicked here. I don't know if you could hear it. It's not abnormal, so don't freak out about it. Sometimes the humerus just doesn't quite set in the right place. Same thing kind of like the femur. No big deal there as long as it doesn't cause any pain. So the second one, we keep that internal rotation, and then we're just going to pull directly to the side like a pec fly. Good there. Okay. The next one would be overhand grip, kind of like a bench press. Pull in. Nice and solid there. Next one, neutral grip. Good. And then the final, underhand. Good. So all those are stable, no like real sputtering or shakiness or pain or irritation throughout the pec, and feeling each one good in the pec. So all that would be a pass. If you don't feel it in the intended muscle, obviously that's a fail, and you probably need to activate in that range. As long as you don't have a lot of other compensations going on, by the end of the 6 reps, you should be able to make a good connection there. All right, pecs, lats. You could also do muscle testing for the bicep, where you're just gonna bicep curl in, pull in. Good. Okay. And you can do this one at various ranges as well. If I were just trying to get a holistic idea of how the biceps working, I might come straight out to the side, 45 degrees, and even down by the side. But this one typically, if it's gonna fail, it'll fail or be painful in any of those 3 ranges. Is that it?
Flexion.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and do shoulder flexion as well. Do it on the right arm so that you can get a better view. I've already had you guys do this, but shoulder flexion, hers is pretty good here. A lot of us don't have great shoulder flexion, so just to activate that, just like any of the other movements, we could start at the far end range of the motion, or anywhere throughout. Most of us, it doesn't start getting hard until we get above shoulder level anyway, so it might just benefit us to start the activation here. If she were lagging, she's just gonna push into flexion for 6 seconds. Okay, relax. And then I'll pull her out of position and then back to a slightly more shoulder flexed position. We would activate there, relax, pull her out of that position, and then we would work our range basically to her very end range and do your last 6th rep right there, 6 seconds. Okay, good. And then afterward, we would just retest that range of motion again and hopefully get a little bit of an increase there.